Hey guys, how you doing? Welcome to Making It Last Forever.
Hey guys,
Hey guys.
how you doing? This is Michael and Shoshana Bowens from Making It Last Forever, back with another episode.
Happy New Year!
Happy New Year! We're coming to you from the subject, the power of agreement. Woo, this is such a spectacular topic because the scripture says, how can any two walk together unless they agree? So that's like in your marriage, in your relationship, with your friends, with your children, whatever. How can you go in the same direction how can you grow if one person's going to the left and the other person's going to the right? How can your finances be in order or get better if you're a saver, she's a spender? How can you plan for retirement if, one of you don't want to retire and the other one wants to retire?
Mm-hmm.
You just got to be in agreement on all things, even with raising children. You want to say anything?
Absolutely, you gotta definitely be in agreement, especially with raising children, because you come from different homes, and so you're brought up different ways, and so however you were brought up, you sort of come into the marriage with that same situation in terms of raising your children, and so you gotta formulate some type of strategy on how you can come in agreement on raising your kids. For instance, if one person is a spanker and the other person isn't a spanker, well, you got to figure out, how are we going to do this? How are we going to discipline our kids, using spanking or not using spanking method? How are we going to teach our kids how to save? How are we going to, teach our kids how to clean up their room, how to pick up after themselves, because you can't do everything all the time for them. They have to learn. And so teaching them this way of life, so that when they get older, that they can continue on doing this for themselves and their families. So you gotta figure out how you can go about doing that, and who's the stronger person in that area, who's the weakest person in that area, and how can you learn from each other and be in agreement at the same time, so that your kids are not looking at you like, well, you saying this thing and you're saying that thing, and they're confused because mommy and daddy's not on the same wavelength.
Mm-hmm.
So you got to make sure that you come in agreement with even something as simple as disciplining your children.
Yeah, I think it takes compromise too as a husband and wife, because you gotta not always have it your way.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes my wife may say something and I'm like, okay, I didn't think about it like that. You gotta humble yourself and say, you know what, my way is not always the best way, and vice versa. Sometimes somebody may have an idea that the other person didn't think of, but guess what? You're on the same team.
Exactly.
It's not like, okay, I have to come up with everything all the time because I'm the man.
Mm-hmm.
No. God said that she's my helpmate. So, fellas, let your wife help you. Let her help you,
Absolutely.
And when you first, I hear so many guys be like, she's just so stupid. Now, let me say something to you. Don't take offense to this. But if you calling her stupid, then you stupid because you picked her.
Exactly. She's a reflection of
She's a reflection of who you are. So it's like, build her up. Build her up. Ladies, build your man up.
Absolutely.
And work together. The power of agreement. I don't care right now if you're going through a hard time. If you can get on one accord, if you can get on one page, your marriage can turn around.
Exactly.
If your finances are shaky, if you can get an agreement on a plan and a strategy that you get from God, your money can turn around.
Mm-hmm.
If your kids are not doing so well, then guess what? You can come get together and communicate and talk and get on one accord. Guess what? Your children can turn around. Anything in life or any issue in life that you're dealing with can turn around if you can get on agreement. That's the one thing the devil don't want you to do is get an agreement, because when you pray, the scripture says that one puts 1,000 to flight, but two puts 10,000 to flight.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and when you pray, the scripture says that when you're in agreement, your prayers get heard in heaven by God. It also says that when you pray, if you're not in agreement, if you're fighting with each other, your prayer won't even get past the ceiling.
Nope.
So it's like, why be in disagreement? Why be
Exactly.
in strife with one another and think you're doing something? Think like, I'm gonna talk to God. You ain't talking to nobody but yourself.
Exactly.
Because God doesn't hear that. You know, it's unit. There's power in unity. There's power in agreement.
Absolutely. And I think that women, you know, you got to learn how to. I'm not gonna say you because I don't want to sound like I'm pointing you out, but I'm saying as women in general, we have to learn to relinquish. Did I say that right?
Yeah.
Relinquish control. You know, you want to be the disciplinarian, or you want to, you know, buy this for them, and you want them to have the world, and you, and it's like you kind of have to take a step back and say, hey, listen, we're in this thing together. You know, how can I be of a helpmate to you? And so while the men are allowing you to be the helpmate, you gotta take a step back and allow your man to step in his rightful role as the man, as the leader, you know, of the household. You know, it doesn't take a lot. I think sometimes we put so much emphasis on something that is not even that serious, and we make it so much bigger than what it really is, when all you have to do is just say, hey, listen, you know, you're stronger in that area, let's do this thing together, you know, and come into agreement. And more times often than none, when you come into agreement, you really start to see how the situation just really works itself out. Like for myself and my husband, we are in agreement all the time. It doesn't matter if we're in agreement all the time, especially when we're disciplining our kids. If he's, you know, talking to them and disciplining them, I step back. I don't get into that. I let, you know, he does what he does, and that's it. And when I'm doing that, he steps back and do that. Or sometimes if we find that, because you know, sometimes your kids are sneaky, they'll try to deceive you. They'll go to one parent and say something or ask them one thing, and if that parent says no or yes to whatever it is that they like or didn't like, they'll go to the next parent and be like, oh, well, you know, daddy said this or mommy said this. So when that happens, the best thing to do is go to your spouse and say, hey, babe, did you say this or did you say that? And then you really find out that, no, I didn't say this, or no, I didn't say that. And you catch your child in a lie or your kids in a lie, and you deal with it from there. You know, so sometimes you really have to be smart in a situation, because sometimes your kids can outsmart you and make you think that, you know, you're both in agreement. So it's always good to check with each other and make sure that, you know, you're doing what's right in terms of, you know, being in agreement with your children, with your money, with, you know, your in-laws, with family, friends, whatever.
It's important,
It's
you know.
important.
Guys, we got to pick up on this for part 2.
Absolutely.
Until next time, guys.
Be
Be blessed.
blessed.